Hello Internet, I am the Hero of Helios once again with another Dungeons & Dragons video. In today's video, I decided for this week we will talk about the weather. I know, casual small talk in most circles, but for Dungeons & Dragons, weather is commonly overlooked. Most of the time, weather only becomes relevant if there's plot points or if you need like dramatic mood setting, but weather typically doesn't get looked upon even in the real world unless it's bad. A good example is it is snowing like crazy where I live, and currently I am snowed in. I cannot even leave my driveway until the snowplows properly come through, and well, that depends on the city really. But this gave me some time to think, and as I thought, I came up with just some simple weather conditions that you could add to spice up what's going on in your D&D adventure. The chart that I have come here is a D100 chart with two instances as which it could become a normal day, between a 1 and a 40 and a 76 to 99. From 41 to 60, it could rain or snow depending on the current climate. From 61 to 70, it could become hail, storms, or an intense heat from the sun. And for 71 to 75, hurricanes or blizzards depending on the climate and what went on the previous day. Finally, for a D100 roll, the 100 always has to be something unique, and I have made it a plague, which we'll get to in a moment. Starting off with a normal day is just a normal day. It's just, there's pretty much every day in D&D unless otherwise noted. If you roll up rain, the clouds will block out the sun, allowing sunlight-sensitive creatures to lose their disadvantage on things. And furthermore, any exposed flames will be put out after a few rounds. The snowy condition is a little more complex just due to how dangerous snow can be if left unfettered. Clouds also block out the sun here, allowing sunlight-sensitive creatures to lose their disadvantage. But any creature or object that is left out in the snow will eventually become covered in it. It takes longer for larger creatures and objects than it would for smaller ones, but eventually they will be completely covered. If they become completely covered in this way, they will start taking cold damage until, well, they succumb to the cold and pass away. However, this can be mitigated by keeping them exposed to an open flame of some sort. See, snow won't put out a fire because it will melt before it becomes a big issue. And because it doesn't come down as harshly and as quickly as rain, it shouldn't put out the fire as quickly as rain would. So a member of your party tending to the fire can keep everyone from freezing to death. Furthermore, any creature that is resistant or immune to the cold can sleep perfectly comfortable in a snowy environment. If you roll on this chart for hail, intense sun, or storm, and it turns out, the previous day didn't match that, it'll instead become the previous day. So for example, if it was a normal day and you roll on the chart and you get you get hail, then it becomes a snowy day. So this hail can only happen if it snowed the previous day, showing that the storm is getting progressively worse. Both of these conditions start as such. For intense sun, if the previous day was a normal day, the weather becomes a normal day instead. But if it wasn't, the heat of the sun burns creatures that aren't adapted to warm weather. Creatures that are not resistant or immune to fire damage can risk getting levels in exhaustion due to just how hot the sunlight is. As someone who has had experienced intense summers, I worked in a greenhouse once nonetheless, I definitely understand the dangers of leaving yourself in a openly warm environment. If you roll on the chart and it's another intense sun day, increase the difficulty score of the heat to risk getting at a level of exhaustion. If this happens multiple days, this could be the work of a wizard, this could be work of some evil dragon taking over the area. You could actually lead these weather conditions into a plot point if you needed something to convince your players to go in a specific direction. Next up is hail. If the previous day wasn't snowing, hail becomes a snow day instead. But if it was snowing the previous day, the snow will pick up in its speed and weight, causing a d4 of bludgeoning damage every round to creatures exposed to it, as well as the effects of a normal snow day. So, and yes, I do mean every single round. So if your players decide they're going to bolt through the snow, and you say like it takes them 10 minutes, that's a lot of d4 damage they're taking, which is why I chose a d4, because it will add up very quickly if they're running through it, and they're being constantly pelted by the lowest form of damage, save for a single point. Finally, for the medium level weather effects, is a storm. If the previous day wasn't rain, it becomes rain instead, but if the previous day was rain, it is now storming. As your players travel once an hour, or if they're in combat once every start of a round, roll a d20. On a 1, lightning will strike something that has metal on it. If nothing has metal, like it's an all-party of druids, just strike the nearest tree or something. To keep it safe, I made it so that this only happens twice per storm. You know, that way you're not constantly rolling to see if your players get struck. Instead, just keep rolling till you hit 1 or 2 things and then call it for that day, because lightning doesn't strike that crazily amount on one specific location that your players are at. If they don't see lightning falling, just say it fell elsewhere. I mean, storms cover a very wide area. If the previous day was a stormy day, and you roll on the worst weather, you will get a hurricane. In addition to the effects of storm and rainy days, the weather picks up to deadly proportions. Lightning now strikes 4 times rather than 2 in a single day, and travel speed is reduced to a 1/4 due to high winds. Small and tiny creatures not wearing heavy armor or being held by another creature need to succeed on a DC 15 strength saving throw or be flung 10 feet in a random direction. The winds here have become horrible, they're blustering, they're throwing things around, lightning is striking way more often. This is something where your players need to stay inside, and they need to stay safe. If the previous day was a hailing day, and you get the worst weather possible, it becomes a blizzard. In addition to the effects of a snow or hail day, the weather picks up to deadly proportions. Creatures resistant, but not immune to cold, can now take damage from the effects of snow weather, and hail now deals 2d8 bludgeoning damage. Finally, creatures without true sight cannot see past 10 feet in front of themselves. The weather has become so thick and, almost painful, well, not almost, completely painful to be pushed through. Again, this is a stay inside for your own safety, because only something immune to cold, like an icy dragon, silver or white, what have you, is going to be okay in this kind of condition. And finally, the one that I just kind of made up for fun, plague. By divine or demonic reason, the sky has opened for a rain of creatures to fall down. You can choose any tiny or small creature, as long as it's not, too intelligent, to rain down from the sky. Mind you, these little versions only have a single hit point, and they don't take fall damage. So it's not like hundreds of frogs are going to rain from the sky and then die instantly when they land. This is something you would want to connect to a adventure plot point. If you roll this and you're looking for something for your players to do, maybe some demon has summoned his imps to fall from the sky, or maybe the gods are trying to warn the people that an approaching, swarm of locusts, so they send thousands of frogs. Whatever the reason, tiny creatures falling from the sky, it's a chart. There's only a 1% chance of it actually happening, so I just figured it'd be something fun to add. Now, I know what you're thinking. What about the control weather spell? Use it. What do you mean, what about it? Use it. Use it to use these weather effects. I would say don't let your players use the plague version, so that, you're not having your players summon a million frogs to attack their enemies. But you could have them start, waving their staff around and cause it to rain. Then the next day they intensify it, and then the day after they make it even worse. I know there's a few other spells that allow weather-based, you know, I believe like, I'm blanking on the name. I think it's called Vengeful Storm. I'll put the real name in front of me right now. But there are spells that already use the weather to cause damage, but I figured this would be fun to have you, the DM, without a magical source, causing weather effects. Thank you for watching as always, and I will see you in the next video. This is the Hero of Helios, Xing out.